been looking forward to doing this video today. This has not always been the case recently, it has to be said. They've not given us much to smile about, have they? Let's be honest. Oh, honestly, feels like I was going to say it feels like a new day today. It is actually a new day today. So it would feel different to yesterday, I guess. Just, you go into work, or as it is for me, you sit in a chair with a spring in your step, or a spring in, or some gas leaking out of your chair, as it is with me. I want to talk about Nuno, actually, today. Because, I mean, there's so many good things from yesterday. I mean, the headline Hollywood stuff was really Freddie Potts. Absolutely great. It's brilliant. And, well, it's just got to start. It's not even worth having a conversation. He's had his little experiment, Nuno. That's fine. I'm sure he'll start with precisely the same midfield against Burnley. So it's not even worth trying to pretend that he's not going to and trying to drum up, a little bit of faux anxiety ahead of that. Look, Potts was magnificent. Fernandes was magnificent. Paquetá was magnificent. There's your midfield three for the next game. Brilliant. But it's really about Nuno. There was always something that was said about David Moyes, and it was... You'll often hear it when West Ham fans are called ungrateful for David Moyes, or West Ham fans hounded David Moyes out. And you will often hear, he saved us from relegation twice. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm very, very grateful for what David Moyes did. And I certainly think he turned us from a crap team into being, 3 seasons running. European football, absolutely brilliant. We won a trophy, semi-final, fantastic, right? It's not that bit I'm arguing with. It's the saved us from relegation twice. I never really felt it. That's the truth of the matter. I never felt we were that bad. I never felt that we were in that much trouble. If Nuno keeps us up, I think he'll have saved us from relegation, because I've really felt it. It's felt like we are one of the worst teams in the Premier League. In fact, the worst team. You can't have it any... You can't think any other way. Even when Wolves changed their manager, I can't have been the only person when they sacked Pereira who thought, oh my goodness, maybe we won't be the 19th team, maybe we're the 20th team, maybe we are the actual worst. And even when they had a humdinger in the Cup, in the Carabao Cup, didn't they? They lost 4-3. And even watching that, thinking, oh wow, Wolves, maybe Wolves are better than us. They've got some goals in them. And it's hard not to think really negatively about West Ham. And I think we've been that bad. And I'm not saying we've turned the corner. We haven't. Let me just explain what I think's happened here. He's given us a glimmer of hope. He's given West Ham fans a glimmer of hope. And I almost thought there was none. And I'm very, very grateful for it. I tell you who else should be really grateful for it, because it's never mind rescue us from relegation. He might just be doing a magnificent job for those owners who are under so much pressure. They should be doing everything they can to keep this guy happy. I've never been... I don't think Lopetegui was a brilliant manager, but I don't think he was as bad as he looked at West Ham. I'm very unsure about Potter. I think Potter might be as bad as he was at West Ham. I don't know. But what I certainly wasn't going to subscribe to was that David Moyes, Julen Lopetegui, Graham Potter and Nuno Espírito Santo are all terrible managers. No, it's clearly the environment that they were in. And they're obviously, differing standards. And some managers thrive under certain circumstances. But I'm really hoping. I haven't had much evidence yet. Well, we've had 5 games. We've had 3 losses, 1 draw, 1 win. But I'm hopeful that Nuno can do it. And he certainly has the personality to do it. Really liked what he said. Well, I always like what he says. I think he's really good. He comes across really well in interviews, in press conferences. If only we could hear him. If only we could hear the press conferences. If only they'd mic up the reporters and we could hear Nuno properly as well. Because I think there's good value there. I think there's good value for the media department to get that stuff out there, because he speaks really well. He speaks passionately. He doesn't just speak passionately. He acts passionate. Not in a Valentine's Day type of way, but he really likes his job. He loves football. He believes in what he's doing, and it really pivots quite I guess it really does hang. It really does hang on a tightrope here in the way that it pivots, because he can either be made to look really good or really bad, depending on his results. So, only a few days ago, you're looking at it, you're thinking, why hasn't he appointed an assistant manager yet? So it starts to look a little bit silly that he hasn't, because he's made some funny old tactical decisions, and you think, well, no one's questioning him. Yet you look at a performance like that against Newcastle, and it starts to look shrewd in many respects, because it looks like he's got the strength of character, he's got the courage of his convictions, he's a manager that's going to push through his tactical beliefs. And he does seem to be really single-minded, and I like that as well. I don't feel he's doing stuff. He's not just playing to the galleries. I don't ever feel that dropping James Ward-Prowse was playing to the galleries. He just seemed to genuinely believe that was the best thing for him to do. I actually think he probably thought at the time that putting Souček and Irving in central midfield was the best thing to do. Now he knows what the best thing to do is. But I've been very, very impressed with him, and really impressed with what he was saying afterwards. If you've not heard the interview, I think the interview was on West Ham's in-house YouTube channel. And he said, we gave them, talking about the fans, we gave them a little bit and they gave us so much back. Well, that's a good line. That's a really, really good line. And he's infectious. He's infectious on the touchline. He's infectious when you hear him interviewed. And I've got to say, if he does manage to rescue us from relegation, he'll certainly get the full credit from me for having done so, because I do think we are bang in trouble. But we feel like a little bit less in trouble now. And if he does manage it, I'll be eternally grateful. There's no doubt about that. I think the biggest thing from everything that I've seen is, and I'm just talking about yesterday's game here, I thought we were a terrible team, and yesterday gave me some belief. And if I have some belief, then the players have belief. And the main thing is Nuno has belief, but I never felt that he's wavered. And that's really important when you're a leader, when you're at the top of whatever, top of management, or just leading any group of people. And he's leading a lot of us. He's the leader of not only the players and the playing squad, he's the leader of us as fans. And I think it's really good when your fortunes are in the lap of someone else, or in someone else's control. As West Ham fans, we're not in control of any of this stuff. He is. And when he seems to have such clarity and such purpose and such sort of single-mindedness, it's nice to see it, and it's nice to see it when it works. And so he had the belief, but I certainly have a little bit more belief now. And as I say, must be the same for the players. It must be a totally different mindset, and that can't have been easy. That cannot not have been an easy week for him. And as much as the tactics might have been better, as much as the selections were better, I can't help but think that the biggest achievement was the turnaround in attitude. They felt like a band of brothers. They felt like you were watching a team. That's quite a turnaround in a week, because the last time I saw West Ham play against Leeds, and certainly the time before against Brentford, they looked like a bunch of players who did not want to be out there. They looked like a bunch of players who were hiding. There was no fight. They were losing their individual duels, losing their individual battles. I wasn't sure there were too many amongst them. Well, maybe Thomas Souček, but there weren't too many amongst them, apart from Souček, who I thought were really up for the fight and the battle. And the thing is about Souček, no disrespect to Souček, I didn't want him starting in the team, certainly not in midfield. But I've never wanted Souček to leave the club, as I've always thought he would have a part to play this season, and so it's proven. It's very, very important we keep him around. But in terms of actually people that I wanted to see start, you thought, who's battling? Who's battling for the cause? Who looks up for it? Who looks motivated? Who's ready for the fight? And I looked at it, I thought, nobody. For him to turn that around on the training ground will not have been easy. For him to have instilled whatever belief it was that he did over the course of a week, that's very impressive. That's to me, is more impressive than the tactics and all the other stuff. I think in many respects, I think probably picking the right team is the easy part. We all sort of knew roughly what the right team was, and we certainly knew who he shouldn't have been picking. But to get a group of people, forget footballers, just a group of people who are in the doldrums, who are downbeat, who are lacking any sort of faith and belief, who are probably massively depressed and worried, and probably worried about turning up in that stadium. Let's be fair, it can't be a great venue to play in when it's bad. To turn them around and to have them believe in themselves and in what you are telling them to do, that's tough. I used to say this under Potter and Lopetegui, which was, after the tactics keep failing, I think it's probably quite difficult if you're a manager to keep saying the same stuff to the players and then having them believe that it will work. To have this tactical plan, to show them the tactics board and say, if we do things as I'm telling you to do them, as we've trained, as we've drilled, this is going to work. We're going to beat that team. After a while, the players are just going to zone out because they're going to think, well, we've been training that and we've been doing that, and actually it's not working. So, I mean, fair play to him. Fair play to him for getting his message across, for making them believe that what I'm going to tell you to do is going to work. And he's not just dealing with, because we're not just dealing with 5 games here that have been in charge. We're dealing with the downward trajectory in everyone's optimism that has been on the downturn since the final 6 months of David Moyes. It's not been a happy place to be. So, look, did Nuno have to fix his tactics from the last 2 games? Yes, he had to. But the job of the players' mentality was a far bigger task. And he's shown that. Even if nothing else, that thing that I thought we'd lost, that we had no fight, we had no players of any spirit, it was there. Even players I didn't think Todibo was capable of that. I mentioned it today when we did our Patreon player ratings, and we've, because of our lovely patrons, we got some software called Y-Scout where we can have an encyclopedic look at all the data, all the video reports. It's basically global scouting software, and a really, really good look at Todibo. And, I mean, I thought he looked like he played really well. That was the eye test. When I looked at the numbers, he was superb. I think I've got it the right way round. I haven't got the numbers in front of me. I think he did 9 interceptions and 4 clearances. Maybe it was the other way round. I mean, really impressive. His passing was impressive. His defensive dueling was up 80%. He was so good. And he was attritional. He looked like he wanted to battle for it. And for him to get performances like that from players who I thought he was I've got to be honest with you, I thought he was a fancy Dan. I think I said on here relatively recently, I can see why Barcelona might have signed Todibo when he was younger, because I can see he's got the skills and I can see he's good at bringing the ball out from the back and that sort of thing. But I really just felt we needed a Craig Dawson. I just didn't think he had that in him. And credit to the manager, he's brought that out of him, because I tell you what, nobody brought it out of him before. It wasn't brought out of him last season by either Lopetegui or by Potter. And it's impressive. By the way, if you want to go and give Patreon a little look, we'd greatly appreciate it. It's a great way for you guys to support Hammers Chat, to help us do this as a job, which has been under threat, let's be fair. And it still is. Look, I mean, let's not pretend otherwise. You know, one swallow, not in that way, doesn't make a summer. By the way, link is in the description below, patreon.com/Hammers Chat, or just Google Hammers Chat Patreon. We very much appreciate your support. But anyway, so I looked at the figures on there, and we were doing our video this morning, and I was impressed. But there were impressive figures all over the place. He managed to get a tune out of everybody. Nobody played badly from an attitude point of view. Yes, there were some individual errors. Malik Diouf had a stinky first 20 minutes. But even the way he recovered to the point where at the end of the game he was completely marauding, that shows mental fortitude. That shows desire and determination. Those 2 words, the whole team, desire and determination. Sounded like, I've got to be honest with you, like The trouble is when you hear a lot of motivational stuff, it all starts to sound like a load of old guff. And it sounded just motivational talk for motivational talk sense when he was talking about how important Lucas Paquetá was, how important the number 10 role was, how important it was symbolic. And it felt during that game that Paquetá had eaten up those words, that he had applied himself so well that he had actually taken on board what Nuno had said, and he believed that the number 10 was a key role at West Ham and that he was the heartbeat of the team. And he believed that stuff and he went out and played like that. And did everything, by the way. And did everything in the right order. You know, he did the histrionics, he threw himself to the ground and he bought valuable time for the team. But at the end, when we were ahead, not all the way throughout the game. And so as they were counter-attacking on us, I mean, it was... some of the dark arts from Paquetá, but it wasn't just the dark arts. He had the passing, he had the determination, he had the wonderful goal. It was all there. He was so heavily involved in these beautiful partnerships between himself and Potts and himself and Fernandes, and just I loved that midfield three. It was probably my favourite part of the game, but there was so much to admire. But I just couldn't help but look at Nuno and think, yeah, mate, well done. It just looked to be the impossible job. And to be fair, even if he'd have failed at West Ham, and he might do. Look, we're not out of the woods yet. We've got a lot to do. This is one win. But it feels very, very important. You know, just going back to that goal that Paquetá scored might be the most important goal we scored this season. Because this is the real important thing about what we saw from that team. So against Leeds, we went behind after 3 minutes, right? I think I got that right. And then we went behind against Newcastle after 4 minutes. There'd have been so much sort of muscle memory, so much PTSD, so much trauma in the players' minds that their minds and their mentality would have been going, oh no, not again, not this. Losing becomes a habit and it would have felt very familiar to them. Yet they didn't give up. They battled back, and the next goal didn't come, and they grew into it, and they grew into it. And I think by the time Paquetá scored that goal, and obviously, you know, we had the penalty disallowed. I think some belief had grown into the team. And fair play, just fair play to the players. I'm very unhappy with the players after Leeds in particular, because I felt they'd been hiding for a lot, actually. And I said in one of the videos, we need to see something from this mob. We need to see it. And we did. We did. They looked like they wanted to play for West Ham, and I thought that was magnificent. And do you know what? No more epitomised than by Souček in many respects, who came on. He looked like a fish out of water. He really did. He was clumsy. He was... that pass, he played a pass straight out for a goal kick. All the things that you know Souček can't do, you saw it. And then all the things you know Souček could do, you saw them as well. He was, on the pitch for half an hour. He scored a goal, should have had an assist as well. And possibly even close to having a second assist as well. That was highly effective stuff. Did it look pretty? No, it was ugly as hell, actually. But just desire, will to win. And I mentioned this on the video, on the Patreon video as well. The thing I like about that is maybe Nuno will look at what Souček did and he'll think, oh, hold on a second. Okay, so he is a bench player. And he can come off and he can have a real impact, which he can. You've seen it. And particularly when you're scrapping and you want to see a game out, why not? But I think the other thing that helps is that might stop him thinking, oh, I'll start him in midfield. I don't think he will. As I say, there's no point labouring that point. I don't think he will. I think he's found his midfield now. And Nuno himself had said, I'm looking, I'm experimenting, I'm looking for things. And when I find something, we can build on it. Well, he's got it now. He's got it. That's going to be, I don't know if the players are in for training today. That's going to be a really, really happy training ground. And, you know, and the fact that our next game is at home as well. And we're going Saturday. Saturday games, we've gone Sunday to Saturday, but we've not got to do any travelling. He's going to get the week on the training pitch with the players. And I know certainly if I was Burnley, I'd be thinking, oh man, why have we got to play them now? Because if there's one game that you don't want to play West Ham in, it's the next game, because this will be the first time this season we got some belief. But now we've got some evidence for belief, whereas before, after Leeds, we didn't. And fair play to him. To be fair, he said it. He said, no, he said, I saw some good things against Leeds. I didn't. But that's why he's a football manager, right? But it was brilliant. It was brilliant. I'm so grateful for him. I'm really, really pleased. Look, obviously, I'm a West Ham fan. Obviously, I want West Ham to do well. Obviously, I want West Ham to win all the time, right? But sometimes you have other stories. And I was so pleased for Potts and so pleased with the Potts family. And you could tell that when the camera pans to Steve Potts on the bench, he almost got a little bit shy, had a little sort of reluctant grin. He knew what was going on. He's been at West Ham for as long as, honestly, almost as long as I can remember. Been there a long, long time. So that's a nice story. But the Nuno story deserves to be a nice story. I like him. He's a good leader. There's a common sense about him, but there's a fight and there's a grit. So got a nice balance. Not easy to have that balance, to be feisty and likeable. I think that's a tough one. He's got it though. You know, he's got it. He's got the passion. He's got the likability. The players seem to like him. I think he's going to, you know, all he's got to do is, all he's got to do is tough. He'll build a really good bond with the fans. I'm quite sure. I'm quite sure of that. He appreciates it. He appreciates the fans, home and away. But I don't feel he's just saying the right things. Remember Potter coming in and saying we have to build a relationship with the fans, we have to build a trust, and we have to. And he said a lot of stuff, but you never. Well, I talk for myself. You never really felt it. I never really believed it. It wasn't inspirational. This guy's inspirational, and yeah, I like it. I like it. So well done, Nuno. Thanks everybody for indulging me for 21 minutes while I waffle on about West Ham related nonsense. I'm back tomorrow. We'll do a full Krug video tomorrow. Something else to do with transfers that I want to discuss. Plus the boys will be around tomorrow. We've got some videos. We've got a video from Mike and Michael. When you see Mike's video on Mike Mustachio, looking very Mexican. Let's put it that way. So you can look forward to hearing from both Mikes or Michaels tomorrow, whichever way you want to cut it. And but I've had a bit of a have a little double whammy, triple whammy of videos tomorrow. So I look forward to catching up with you then.